Hello everyone and welcome to F5 Demo Days, a program designed to make you familiar with the power of the F5 distributed cloud solution. In these short demo sessions, we will show you how easy it is to enable SaaS-based security services, such as web application firewall, API security, bot defense, and DDoS mitigation. I'm Philippe Kloop, EMEA Solution Architect, and I will be your host for today's session. Before we get started, just a few housekeeping items. If at any time throughout the session you experience issues with audio or slides, try to refresh or even restart your browser. Sometimes switching to a different browser may also result in a better experience. If you have any questions throughout the presentation, please submit them in the Q&A box. We will conduct a live Q&A session at the end to answer those questions on today's topic. The topic for today's session is creating the new WAF boundary. And our presenter today is my colleague Mohamed Chat, EMEA Solution Architect. Over to you, Mohamed.
Thanks, Philippe. We'll start now. We're starting always with the application. Applications are changing from being in our data centers and being more dynamic and being consisting of microservices, and not only being as microservices, but also being distributed across multiple clouds and multiple environments, which represent a challenge not only to SecOps and NetOps, but also to application developers and DevOps teams. These applications, when they are distributed across the multi-cloud environment, they will need too many tools to protect them, and to integrate these tools together is very difficult, and also very hard to have a consistent security and observability policy across all of the different cloud environments, and also need more talent and knowledge about how to manage these complex environments. And this is why F5 Distributed Cloud actually solved this problem by providing a complete security services for dynamic applications. From one console, you can deploy your WAF policy and have a visibility across any cloud environment. Also is scalable to handle the increasing traffic, because as you see in this demo, we are going to use F5 regional edge nodes to protect the applications. So nothing is going to be deployed on the customer side. And it's a faster way to secure your application. And more important, it's not just a WAF, it's offering more other services like DDoS mitigation, bot defense, and API security. And those other topics, we are going to see them in the next sessions. So our session today, we are going to focus on the F5 Distributed Cloud WAF, which is providing a signature-based identification that identify bad request based on a match or more signatures in the database, and also have a way to tune these signatures to make them more accurate and reduce the false positives. Also have a behavior-based features to identify threat actors and false positives. So in our demo environment, we will have our application. Our application is already exists on the internet, and we will have me in the demo trying to make legitimate requests and also trying to attack this application. And then we are going to see what is happening. So how the F5 Distributed Cloud WAF works, basically using the F5 Distributed Cloud Console, we can provision the WAF to the F5 global network, regional edge, or even sometimes in your own environment, whether it's in public or private. And this is going to be covered in another session. We can do this provisioning using DevOps tools or using F5 Distributed Cloud Web UI, and I'm going to show you in the demo both ways. So once we provision our policy, F5 regional edge sites in the F5 global networks are going to advertise this application to the internet. And these nodes, all of them will have the same WAF policy that we define for the application. I'm going to protect the application. So if we receive a legitimate traffic, users will connect to the F5 regional edge node. Regional edge node is going to send the traffic to the application wherever it exists, and also send performance and metric data to the F5 console. And if an attack is happening, then the attack is blocked at the regional edge, at the boundary of the F5 global network, and never reach the application. All right, so now we are going for the demo. So the demo is recorded, and I'm going to stop and pause during the demo to show you some stuff. So I'm going to share now. I'm gonna run the demo right now. Okay, so now in the demo, what we are going to do is basically start with the configuration. Now here I am logging to my F5 Distributed Cloud console, and then go to my web application and API. As you can see here, there is a listener already defined. This listener is called the HTTP load balancer. This listener was created in the first session. So if you want to know how this listener was created and how to create these listeners and what is the different option, this has been done in the first session. Now, the application is already there and it doesn't have any policy. So we try to access this application and see if it's already protected or not. So now we access the application and try to attack the application. As you can see here, the attack passed through because we saw the Nginx. So this means the attack reached to the servers. And as you can see here in the configuration, there is no app firewall. So at this stage now, we are going to configure our web application firewall. So we start by giving it a name. After we give the name, we select the enforcement mode. So we select blocking. We have two options here, monitoring and blocking. Monitoring means we will report the attacks, but we will not stop it. Blocking means that we are going to stop the attack. And then we are going to customize our policy. So here in the attack types, you can see that you can disable some of the attacks type, or you can enable all of the attack signatures, totally customizable. So this is the different type of attacks, signatures. And then you can select the signature selection by accuracy. So high, just enable the high accuracy signatures, or high and medium accuracy signatures, or high, medium, and low. Obviously in here, I'm gonna select the high. And then this is a very important feature, is the automatic signatures tuning. So these features actually use machine learning to tune the signatures to reduce the false positives on them. And then with the threat campaigns, this is a threat intelligence feed where we provide to the WAF instance without you need to configure it, or just you can select to enable it or disable it, and then this will provide the threat intelligence feed for your WAF based on our threat campaign feature. And then finally, and then again for the violations, you can also select a violation and disable that violation. Then for the advanced fields, we are going to look at this in a later stage. You can define the allowed response codes, mask sensitive parameters such as passwords or credit card information, or customize your block page. So after we create the WAF policy, we are going to attach this WAF policy to our listener. So now we go to the HTTP load balancer and then go to the security section. And in the security section, we enable and select the WAF policy we have just created. Now, once we save this configuration, now let's try to access the application again and see if anything changed. So we access the application now, and we try to do the same attack we tried earlier. And as you can see now, is already blocked and having our block page. Now let's try to change this block page, response page to a different look and feel. And this is now what we are going to do now. So go to the WAF policy, edit the configuration, and then go down to the advanced configuration, and then select the blocking response page, right? Yeah, and here this is, I already explained this. So now here you select the response page, so we can remove the default one and add our own a new blocking page. And now try to access the application again and try to see, and this is now a different blocking page for the application. Now next, we are going to do to look at the reporting. So this is the dashboard. And it's worth mentioning here in the dashboard, you will see that this is all the applications that you have, right? And you will see both attack information, security-related information, in addition to some performance information. And also we'll show you how you can just see the security events if you need. So, and also here is showing the application traffic. So, once we put the filter, you can see how the traffic is moving from the internet, and it's accessing which regional edge node on the F5 distributed cloud. So this is the performance, again, as I mentioned. So this is showing you all the applications that we have, the blocking mode, and then it's showing the health of the application, the request rate, the latency, errors, latency, and all of kind of performance data. From here, you can go more into more detailed dashboard for the performance, but because we are just focusing on the WAF, so we are going to see the WAF dashboard, and I believe the performance screen was also shown in the previous session or in the first session. So, okay, now as you can see, here's is showing here the requests, number of attacks, and how much we blocked. And in here, you can see the security dashboard, which is very useful for SecOps, seeing the security events, the location of the attacks, recent security events, the top signature hits, top attack types, and some other features, which is going to be shown in the other sessions. Malicious user is a type of where we can correlate the different security events done by a certain user and report that in a dashboard. But this is you are going to see in the API session, and a DDoS and bot also are going to see those parts on the dashboard. So as you can see, is a single dashboard that have a complete view of security of the application. And now here, this is the security event. So we're showing here only the events that initiated a security event. And you can select from above if you want the WAF or the bot or the API, and then you can drill down in each one where the attack is coming from and all kind of these details. This is also provided as in the web UI and also provided as JSON, where you can send to external systems. Then we see again here on the next tab all of the requests that is coming. And in these requests, we can add some filters. So I don't want to see all the requests. Maybe I just want to see what has been blocked. So I can add this filter. And now I'm seeing just the requests that has been blocked. And again, clicking on any of these requests will result in seeing what is happening, what is the performance, and from where it was blocked and why it was blocked and what was the request, and all kind of information related to the attack or the IP address and what the action has been taken. So yeah, and that's it now. We are going to go now and talk about a different way. So now in this part, we show how to configure the WAF on the F5 distributed cloud regional edge. And now we are going to see another way of doing that using a CI/CD pipeline. So in this part, I'm going to do the same thing, exactly the same thing, but I'm not going to use the web UI. I'm going to use a CI/CD tool like GitLab to initiate a pipeline, and this pipeline is going to automatically configure my listener, my web application firewall, and everything. Now, the use case for this one could be that there's different department using the F5 distributed cloud, so each department have its own security requirements, or maybe I want to test before deploying a production. So for that, as you can see here in the top left of the screen, we have the concept of namespaces where each application can belong to its own namespace. So I'm using the default namespace so far. So now I'm going to use another namespace. So if I click here, I'm going to go to my own namespace. So as you can see, there is no listeners, there is no app firewall. And now I'm going to run my pipeline, which is 4 stages, right? Is going to prepare and then build the configuration and then deploy the configuration that I use. Now, if we refresh now here, you will see that now I have a new listener with a new application. And in my HTTP load balancer, the WAF policy is already configured. Perfect. Now let's test this application. So I copy the application and try to access this application. Application is running. And now if I try to do the attack, I get the blocking page. That's it for the demo. Thank you very much. Back to you, Philippe, for the questions.
Thank you, Mohamed. So I have pretty much, a very huge amount of questions, which is great because it's look like the topic is of interest, and that's fine. Let me ask you the first question. How does it differentiate from Silverline WAF? And shall Silverline users consider a change, and why?
Okay, a great question. So this is the next generation, let me say, web application firewall of our solution, and the plan is to integrate both solutions together. So both Silverline and F5 distributed cloud will have their same nodes serving their customers. And of course, you can always refer back to your account team how to migrate from Silverline into F5 distributed cloud. The difference here that in F5 distributed cloud, we are providing more features and more options to deploy across the multi-cloud environment. Back to you, Philippe, for the next question.
Okay. Is the cloud WAF using F5 ASM AWAF engine and thus use case the same attack signatures? Does it offer threat campaigns as well?
Yes, it is using the F5 Application Security Manager or ASM engine, and also using F5 threat campaign, threat intelligence. And all of these things are built in a way that is easy to use for the operation of your web application firewall security teams. Okay,
nice. I think, as an addition regarding the attack signature ID, it's the same on ASM and the solution you've been presenting, right?
Yeah.
Okay. How do you handle the false positive? Does it mean you need to generate alerts and fix things manually until the AI has learned what is not an attack?
Yeah, so as I mentioned during the presentation, the system already have a mechanism for machine learning to reduce the false positives. And this is today the way the system works. And again, you have always the option to disable any attack or open a ticket with the support from the system to fix these kind of issues.
Okay. Another question, but I'm not sure you will get it because it's unclear to me. How can you check that specific support ID? So I think when you were presenting and demoing, you were showing some logs and support IDs. I think especially on the page that is sent back as a response. So I think the question is probably linked to this. How can you check that specific support ID? I'm assuming can you search for it, right?
Yeah, very similar way that I search for the block requests. I can create filters for a specific support IDs and filter the traffic that is related to that support incident, security incident.
Okay, thanks. Is there any support or concept of signature staging, or you just keep this part for brevity in your demo?
No, signature staging is not in the F5 distributed cloud. And this is why we are trying to give the options of accuracy of signatures, high accuracy signatures, high and medium, or all of the options. And this will result in lowering the need of using this kind of staging. Another way of testing the signatures that, as I mentioned during the demo, like you can use this as a different namespace for testing and staging and test your application before, test the security policy of the application with all the signatures before deploying into the production namespace.
Okay. Does it have all the features like advanced WAF, meaning URL, parameter, file types, blocking, etc.?
Most of the features that we have on our advanced WAF is available in F5 distributed cloud. It's not 100% all of the features, but with a roadmap, we're adding the features to the system. Now, I want to mention something because this is an alternative, because this is a different way of deploying your security policies and trying, when we're trying in F5, to make it easier for SecOps to manage their WAF security policy. So maybe it will not be this, it will not follow the exact same concept of advanced WAF. Maybe it will be presented in a different way to protect these, to mitigate against these type of threats.
Okay, thanks. Another one, can we also inspect the response traffic from servers back to clients via distributed cloud WAF?
Yeah, in the request tab, you can see both a request and the response coming from the server.
Is there any SLA for application availability?
Yeah, there is an SLA for application availability, and this SLA, the concept of the SLA is to give, because this is a SaaS service, so there is a construct for this SLA, and this SLA is available in the website, and we can always see what the kind of SLA that we are providing in case of service interruption.
Okay. So slightly different than the learning that was requested, but does Cloud WAF or F5 Distributed Cloud WAF, or WAP to be more accurate, support learning app, meaning learning the application? I'm not talking about learning in terms of policies, talking about learning the application itself.
Yeah, so F5 Distributed Cloud have an engine where it can learn the application API automatically and display them. And this is something that we are going to see in the next session. We also have the option to upload a Swagger file, to have it learn all of the API endpoints and provide protection for it.
Okay, thanks. Is there any document that describes the difference between an on-prem WAF and F5 distributed cloud WAP?
I don't. I think I would check that and maybe try to send if such document exists. However, it's worth mentioning that F5 distributed cloud WAF can be deployed on both ways, on public cloud or on-prem. So, I think the on-prem deployment is also one of the demos. You are going to see how you can deploy the F5 web application firewall in a customer premises deployment.
Okay. So this question has been requested 2 or 3 times about a matrix with a WAF on-prem and F5 distributed cloud. So I think we will have to do a follow-up on this. Another one, which is a question and also kind of a remark, we don't see the OWASP dashboard compared to advanced WAF. Is it something that we missed in the demo, or is it something that we are planning to provide?
Yeah, there is a big plan in the F5 distributed cloud WAF to add new dashboards, new features, and because this is a cloud deployment, so you expect this to happen in a faster rate than the traditional way of doing that. So I would say this is a part of the product plan, include more dashboards and more features.
Okay. A question regarding IAPS. Are IAPS available in the solution?
IAPS is not available for this solution. However, we've shown the alternative way using a DevOps tools to automatically provision your application. So the F5 distributed cloud is a cloud native infrastructure. So it supports a wide variety of tools to enable automation and ease of configuration for different teams.
Okay. Can APM be integrated with F5 distributed cloud WAF?
So APM and F5 distributed cloud WAF is today 2 different products, and today there is no integration between both of them.
Yeah, but I think in the traffic chain, nothing prevents anybody from having an APM somewhere and connecting this to a backend, which is F5 distributed cloud WAF.
Of course.
Again, another question on the SLA. What SLA we can offer to our customers? I think it's the question is probably expecting an answer like 999. You know, the number of nines we can provide.
Yeah, and I think we can share the link for the SLA because the SLA is have a way of calculation. So I think we can send the link for the SLA and what kind of SLA is available with the F5 distributed cloud.
Okay. Is it possible to protect around 3,000 different websites for top 10 attacks and scans and URL, XSS, SQL injection, and so on, without false positive WAF protection? The question is related to mass hosting use case, for example.
Yeah, and and actually the system is built to actually address these kind of use cases to provide a protection in a scale, right? And the big advantage of the F5 distributed cloud is that all of these WAF instances can be treated as a single instance, the 3,000 or the 5,000, and you can have a common security policy deployed for all of these locations, or even if needed, different type or different security policies deployed to different applications. So totally flexible and is built to scale to these use cases.
Okay. Does F5 consider a single point for WAF policy management and maintenance of different deployments like on-prem WAF, cloud WAF, and Nginx App Protect from a single console and single tool?
Yeah, this is something is in the plan, and again, I already mentioned that. I mention it again. So the answer of the question is yes. F5 is considering having a single tool to provide a common management for all of the WAF products. However, for the F5 distributed cloud WAF, it's already have the two options. It can be deployed on the F5 regional edge, but also we have the option to deploy it as well on-prem and have a common management between the two, all of the instances, wherever they are existing.
Okay. Is there a way to take a backup from the on-prem WAF and restore directly on the distributed cloud WAF?
Not available today, but this is something that is in the plan.
Yeah, and this is called One WAF internally, but there are many other names coming in. Yeah, thanks. Do you have any pen test tool to compare or test the application with and without F5 distributed cloud WAF to show to the customers the difference?
So we don't provide we don't have a pen test tool as part of the F5 product, but we already use some internal tools to attack the applications and check the security effectiveness of the security policy deployed. I can check if there is anything done between the F5 on-prem WAF and the F5 distributed cloud, but to be honest, it's not the objective. The objective for the F5 distributed cloud is not to compete with the traditional WAF deployment. The objective of the F5 distributed cloud is to actually provide a protection for these dynamic applications that is distributed across a multi-cloud environment.
Okay. And there was one last question. Can we use cloud WAF with on-prem apps? And I think it's a good question because that's a topic we'll cover later on, but I'll leave you with the answer, Mo.
Yeah, exactly. So F5 distributed cloud, it does not only cover cloud-based deployment, but it also can be deployed on-prem. And also you can protect your even internal applications using F5 distributed cloud. So, and that's a session that we have later, just focusing on this subject.
Okay, that's all we had for today. For any questions we didn't get to, we'll contact you directly. With that, we conclude this session of F5 Demo Days. We'd like to thank you for joining us today, and I would also like to thank Mohammed for the insightful demo and for answering all those questions. Look out for an email from us with a link to the recording of today's session. And we look forward to seeing you again in our next Demo Days session. If you haven't already, please take a moment to complete the brief survey, which will also pop up when the session ends. Thanks again for being with us today. See you next time.
Thank you, Philippe. Thank you all.
Thank you, Mohammed.